Hello everyone. Today we have with us Rajashri Kulkarni Divakar. She has been working in space of menstrual and reproductive health for almost 7 years. She has also conducted trainings on menstrual and reproductive health with rural and urban women, health workers, teachers, hostel schools, people with disabilities, women in sex work and so on. Being working in been working in tribal areas of Chhattisgarh, also in Maharashtra. She also worked on spreading awareness about sustainable alternatives. Hello, ma'am. Firstly, we would like to wish you a very happy Teachers' Day. Happy Teachers' Day, ma'am.
Thank you so much for inviting me and thinking of me as a teacher because I think the process of mentoring someone or training or educating, I think it's so ongoing and you were so inclusive to not think of a teacher as only a person who teaches in schools or colleges to the set of students.
Yes, and I think what you teach is something which is really important, and very less people have the courage to teach what you teach. So
Thank you
ma'am,
so much.
welcome. So, ma'am, we would like to begin by asking you more about yourself and your work.
Sure, sure. So, actually, many years ago, I think more than a decade ago, I always liked the idea of volunteering at different places, and so that is how I got involved in the area of social work or working with NGOs who work for a social cause. So that began many years ago, I think in 2008, kind of. So, and I chose a specialization. Though I studied home science, which is traditionally looked as something which girls should learn because they should get married in a better way. But actually, in home science, I learned different things, and one of the specialization that I chose. Which was there in the which was there in the home science was human development, and I chose to do specialization in that. And in that I learned psychology and development across lifespan, and that's how I got interested in working with children and adolescents, and women's studies was also part of it. So I think it just led me to what I'm doing right now. So some of them were very conscious decisions, some just happened organically, I would say. So that is about it. And many years ago, like in 2013, I moved to Chhattisgarh for one fellowship, and I didn't think that working on menstrual health would become my passion topic, and I would work on it. So there I was just a teacher or someone to assist the headmistress of the school. And but then I became interested in different topics like menstrual health, in general health. And so along with education, I started also working on this topic. Earlier, working on menstrual health was more of a weekend activity for me because I used to do a full-time job somewhere and then I used to do this. But past few years, I am trying to do this full-time, and trying to collaborate with different organizations so that they can take this message forward. And so I learned about sustainable menstruation, that is reusable menstrual options when I moved to Chhattisgarh in 2013. So I was faced by an issue that uh, there is literally no place to dump your pads. Like it will either be in your backyard or either be in your front yard. So I was really, I would say, very disappointed and also very stressed that what should I do about this waste created every month. And in just a few months, I switched back to reusable cloth. The cloth I used uh, as a teenager, actually. But so then I moved back to reusable options, and then I started learning about different options. And since I was living in a residential school, the students and teachers were there in the same campus 24/7. So we used to have discussion about literally anything under the roof. So this was this. So menstrual health was one topic where we discussed, and I also came to know that there is so much silence related to this topic. So we need to discuss this topic. So like casually we started talking about it gradually, slowly, and then I also talked about reusable options, and they were like very fascinated. Like they used to get fascinated by almost everything you show to them via Google or anything. So when I showed them disposable pad, that time also they were like, "Wow, so white and all." And when then I showed them reusable cloth pad, then also they were very fascinated by it. But they really liked that. Clothpad is a good option and they really wanted to try. So that is how the work started, I would say. And I met so many nice people in this journey that I got to work with different people in different areas and got to collaborate with them. So, yeah, this is about it.
So, ma'am, over a period of time, in your experience, did you notice someone with this is a very conservative topic, like people are not comfortable, many of them, speaking
Mhm.
about menstrual health and menstruation. So, did you experience any resistance from the public, yeah, people when you went there to teach them about reusable pads or thing?
So, in general, about menstrual health, there are still very doubts and there are misconceptions about them. So, like few until a few years ago, I would say from 2018 or 17, 18, I have seen difference in the attitudes of people. But before that, people used to be we don't need this education. We know about this from our elders in the family or from someone, but we don't really need to talk about this topic. It's very normal thing. Everyone gets it. But the thing is, when we say it normal, but we are not actually treating it as a normal thing. So that is the issue where we need to work on. So yeah, there was I have also experienced that people walking out of my sessions in the beginning, or people like they would generally say like नहीं ये आप नहीं बोल सकते, now just stop this talk even in menstrual health, talk just about the hygiene, don't talk about the myths or don't talk about internal organs. So they used to just stop me in between. So this has happened in the past. And sometimes with government people or with heads of some institutions, they have simply refused to talk on this topic in the beginning. But I would say Padman, though it promotes disposable pads, but thanks to it, people started talking about menstruation, and they are discussing it now more than before. So in past 3 years, I have seen like corporates and different organizations taking lead to talk on this topic. So it's a very good sign that I see in past few years. So the scenario is changing gradually, but still we are yet to work a lot.
Yes, definitely, ma'am. So, ma'am, what are your views regarding period leave?
Period leave, I think, is very important topic, and it should not be limited to just the leave, I feel. So, period leave is indeed a very good move by Zomato, and there are some more organizations who had implemented it previously, but maybe it was not discussed so much or applauded so much as Zomato's move is applauded. I think it is very important that our workspaces be inclusive of menstruators, people who may identify as a woman, may not identify as women, but still bleed. So we need to be very inclusive when it comes to this, because women may not be same the whole month. So for that, like stacking up your office with period products, then maybe having something to sit on like comfortably in your office. So it could be, so now like when you are making your, when you are some people are trying to make their offices baby and mommy friendly, but I think this aspect should also be included, that your toilets are clean, your toilets are have stash of menstrual products. So these different things I feel, and then there are so many other things which could be included as well. But period leave is really important, I feel, because there are a lot of menstruators who experience a lot of pain, and they may not be able to attend office, or they may just need half a day off, or some hours of off maybe. So there should be such flexibility in the work. Of course, the period leave policy is I think work from home is again a very privileged concept, I think, because not everyone can do that. Our maids can't do work from home. So our maids or laborers, they may need leave completely. So we need to really consider this, that what a menstruator goes through, and if they need. So if there is a provision, they can think of availing those benefits. But if there is no provision, then women or any other menstruator may get scared that they may lose their job, or they may like they will be short of their leaves, like this may happen. So some people have argued that why don't you use sick leave, but that menstruator will need a sick leave for her other illnesses also. So why finish those leaves like just for a few days of periods? So I think this is very important. And I think when we start discussion about period leave, I think more menstruators will openly discuss periods with their superiors or their team members, uh, because when I have done sessions in corporates, I have seen that a lot of menstruators don't discuss menstruation with their superiors. Like even if they are not feeling well, they will still continue working, or they will just pop a pill. And I think period leave is more about self care, and taking that 1 or 2 day break that a person needs. So, yeah, I think it's very important, and especially people with PCOS or endometriosis or many other conditions where they face not just pain but a variety of symptoms, which it could be mental health issues also. So we really need to be inclusive and conscious when we say talk about period leave.
Yes, ma'am. And through this platform, we want to tell our viewers that period leaves does not mean that women will sit at home without doing any work for 4 days every month straight. But it means that if we sanction period leaves, it gives them a flexibility and a sense of security that yes, they can work on their own pace. So I think
Yes.
that's it. Yes.
Also, I think it is very important that we should start discussing this issue. Like we should be open about menstruation. We should speak about it. We should discuss with our colleagues, our superiors. Then only we could solve this whole issue about period leave, and then it could be exclusive everywhere.
Yes,
Yes,
and I
yes.
think not only in or at workplaces, but also in schools and colleges as well, because we see that women are not open to talking about menstruation, especially in their teenage or in their 20s. So I think this should be a discussion, a normal discussion. It's not something, it should not to be considered as a taboo. So I think this change needs to be brought up.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. So next question we would like to ask you is that you have been closely working with a lot of children. So do you have any perspective of what our educational system should change to be more inclusive towards their mental health, or what change our education system should make in order to bring more children to learn?
Okay. So, when it comes to empathy and mental health and many other things, I think we really need to imbibe these values by doing and setting examples at school and colleges. So the earlier the better, I feel. So like connecting with nature is one thing I personally really recommend, because you take that time off for yourself, you explore the outdoors, and there may be people who may just like to sit under a tree and read. That's fine. And there may be some people who would like to do like sports, or they would like to do a run in greenery. It could be anything. So we should really teach our children that how to connect with the nature, and we learn so much from it. If I had not moved to Chhattisgarh many years ago, I would have never learned how students have this synchronization with nature, how they choose foods depending on the seasons and everything. Now, like, we are not doing it right now. Everything is available the whole year, but if you connect with nature, you understand what is seasonal and what is not. And so it's more of eco-conscious, is what I feel. That's one thing. But other thing also, when it comes to mental health, I personally feel that being inclusive in the school, like children come up from all kinds of backgrounds. Children can come from divorced families, children can come from families where they would have remarried, or there will be families with history of some kind of abuse. So it could be anything, or there could be children with disabilities. So once the teacher and the school system starts accepting all these differences, and they encourage the children to accept these differences, and you will see that children learn it from somewhere to not accept these differences. Especially there's imitate adults a lot. So if adults are showing, because children have empathy, like the if you have met a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, they have so much empathy, and they will forgive you for whatever you do. They have such open hearts. But it's adults, and it's the our society which makes them think in a certain way. And so that is about it. So I think that is how we should work on. And also parents and teachers being examples. So how we treat children, such different children, so which don't fit into our definition of normal. So if we start embracing how the teachers behave with such people, so I think that is important. That's what students see. And another thing is how a teacher also handles teacher or parents handle their mental health issues. I think that is also very important. Like if a teacher feels like she's not feeling well mentally, like she's very exhausted, or she just has a mental breakdown, like she doesn't want to work, or she just needs a 5 minute off. If she explains those to children, I have seen children understand that. They may not understand the exact words or the exact concept, but they will give that 5 minute off to you, or things like that. So they understand at a very early age. So I think if we start working on that, that is really going to help children in run.
Yes, ma'am. I think that you know discriminating within individuals or even between animals and humans is something that we teach our children, unknowingly teach our children, and that is not something that they are born with. So
Yes,
yes,
yes.
should change.
Uh, I just wanted to add to this, as you mentioned about animals and plants. So gardening or having a pet, or you may not have a pet also, but if you just talking to the strays, playing with the strays. So children do it very like they do it it comes from their within. But sometimes they may just get scared of them. That's fine, because of the barking of the dogs or something. They may get scared. That's very normal. But if we encourage all these things, they sure are going to learn empathy. I mean, for free. You don't have to take classes for it or do any special thing. Just gardening gives you empathy. then like spending time with the animals just outside in your locality. And I think the vegan lifestyle also, like vegan lifestyle does not always mean that um, like not killing animals for eating or for something, but vegan lifestyle is more about empathy. And if we could think of it as a lifestyle, not just about food choices, the ahimsa and all such things we have been told by our like by our elders and many great people in India. So I think if we could just take few parts of it and start imbibing in our life, children are going to automatically learn from us, from whatever they think that is important and they find it interesting. So I think we should start from that.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, ma'am, and also I guess institutions should have a guidance counselor, like a mental health counselor. Like I have heard that they have it, but I haven't come across any institution yet which actually has some guidance and counselor.
There are some schools, especially the private schools, you will find some of the counselors. I know some people who are associated with schools and work on such topics. But again, they are very few, and uh, a lot of them are just consulting, and like they are not placed in just one school. They may be taking care of two or three schools also. So it depends, but having someone on campus for long, for like till children are there, I think it's not in every school, and in government schools you may not find anyone. But it's very important, as you mentioned. And I remember my college having one such cell where we could go and speak to the counselor. And so yeah, it is very interesting, and we also learn a lot of things about ourselves and coping with stress and so many other things. So yeah, it's very important.
Yes, and I think we need a counselor at least once in our lifetime. Like, and being able to go to a counselor should not be a
Government,
privilege.
yeah.
Like,
Yes, yes.
everyone should be able to access someone. So, ma'am, next we would like to ask you, what would you like to achieve through this activism over years?
uh Very good question. Actually, I have not really planned it, or I don't really have goals or something like that. But I would say the thing I want to see, the change I want to see, I think I can just share that. So one of the things that I really want to see the change, or one thing that I'm working on, is having a planet where we are inclusive of menstruators, we are inclusive of people with different bodies, different backgrounds. Though I'm not actively working on mental health, but I really want to get involved in it someday. But but myself having some faced mental health issues in past, so I really advocate seeking help, and seeking help for anything, even if small things bother you, and it's upsetting you, it's not letting you work. So yeah, so that is one thing on my agenda. So yeah, so one thing is the period positive or the very inclusive planet, and another thing is also about mental health. So these are two things that I really want to work on. And I really hope that the girls and their mothers and their families really feel comfortable talking about this topic in the long run, like in the future. And they they talk about, they should be able to talk about it on a dinner table, or casually when they're having tea or something. So I hope it becomes so important yet normal part of their life. So yeah, just working towards it.
Yes, ma'am. A society where we would be able to discuss menstrual health, menstrual problems openly would really great to see such a society. Because now we are facing, or we are seeing people women who are ashamed of asking for a pad to a man if a shopkeeper is a male, or if there are other males around, they won't ask, or they'll carry the pad as if they are carrying some kind of like a
Explosive.
yeah,
Yeah.
explosive sort. So I guess we should really overcome that. These are very small things which
Yes,
would really
yes.
help us achieve. Yeah,
Yes,
hopefully
I
achieve.
just want to add to what you said. So, once you start talking about menstruation, menstrual health, in my experience, I have seen that you open a window to not just window or door, I would say, to people's hearts, where people discuss a lot of issues related to it. So it could be reproductive health issues like not able to have children, or issues after having children, or infections, and so many other things. Uh, and menopause and different things. We just start a conversation when we start talking about menstrual health. It's not a full stop. Like you started talking about menstrual health, so like now full stop, now work is done. It's not exactly like that. So you just start the conversation. People become comfortable about menstrual health. They will gradually, like the conversation, if it goes ahead, it also goes ahead with the body positivity to the self esteem and so many other topics. So it's not really like as a lot of people view it, as not limited to products or hygiene and just taboos. It's much more than that. And yeah, so it's the way forward. Like once you start talking about it, you can talk about so many different topics, and it really takes away inhibitions, I feel. And that is very important, like not have inhibitions about your own body and your own health.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, we would like to know that who are the people who inspire you and support you throughout your work journey?
There's so many. So starting from my some of my school teachers, and then college teachers. So I really give credit to some of the teachers at school and college, because I was really a shy person when I was in school and college. But in college, a lot of professors worked on me, and that is how I gained strength to do public speaking and so many other things. So I think gratitude is the word which I feel about that. And in terms of working on menstrual health, I can talk about some specific people. Um, so one is Lakshmi Murthy. Lakshmi Murthy is one of the founders of Jatan Sansthan. Their product is Ugair cloth pads. So I think she is the one lady who really inspires me by her work and the person she is. Then there's one more person called Kathy, who is co-founder of Ecofem. They also make reusable cloth pads, so she also inspires me a lot. And these two people have been a part of my journey for a really long time. Then there's one more person who I've met just once, but I have been following her through social media and different mediums. Her name is Chris Bobel, and she does amazing research when it comes to menstrual health and women's health. So I really admire her, and yeah, so she's one of those people. And there are many menstrual health educators. I think list will fall short, who have been part of my journey, and I have ranted, cried, and also shared my high moments with them. So yeah, so they have been my teachers or inspiration at some point of the time. So yeah, and also I would like to also thank to some of my to the two workplaces I worked at, who were very inclusive of what I did. Though I worked on education, they also supported me to work on menstrual health. So one is the Bachpan Banao Fellowship, where I did the fellowship in 2013-14. And then there is one more organization where I worked for some time in Chhattisgarh, Center for Learning Resources. Both of the organizations were really supportive of what I did. And I grew a lot as a person when I worked at these two places. So, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Uh, so, ma'am, your story, the work you do was really inspiring for us, and we hope, like you are doing this work for society, we would also do something to contribute to society. And thank you so much for your time. And also, I would like to say that we hope this would really bring a change in society, a minute change, because this is really a long journey, and small changes will eventually bring bigger change in the society. So yes, we'd really like to thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me to discuss this topic. And yeah, I'm very hopeful that change is happening, and it will sure happen in next few years, or don't know, many years. But yeah,
Yes, ma'am. And also, we would really like to tell our society and tell our viewers that not only the teachers who teach in school can educate us, but there are also many others like you who go and educate underprivileged children and educate girls and other menstruators about the menstrual health. So we'd really like to acknowledge all the people who are working for the same cause. Thank you, ma'am.
thank you so much.